where is the location of the soul in the barzakh? Where is it located? And this question, to be honest, even though it is discussed in some of our classical books, at the same time, Allah knows best, there seems to be a bit of a healthy skepticism that I think we should have, because the whole notion of time and location and space for the barzakh is completely separate from our own world. We understand that time is different for the soul. And at some level, we also understand that the 3 dimensions is different for the soul. So this notion of trying to pinpoint where the soul is from our dimension onto their dimension seems to be a theoretical question. And that is why there is no one opinion. Actually, there are more than 10 opinions on this issue. And what difference does it make us? Even if we were to say the soul is located there, I mean, it's not as if we can go up to that location and have a conversation with the soul, is there? So even as I mention these opinions, I must say I personally feel a type of healthy skepticism that what is the purpose of this discussion? There's no tangible benefit that comes from this one. Nonetheless, because it is mentioned in our classical books, I will mention some of these positions. By first beginning to claim that modern Western culture says the souls wander in this earth, right? The ghosts of the people wander in this earth, that we can dismiss categorically. That is completely false. The living and the souls are not in the same dimension. Now, whether they can communicate or not, that's next week inshallah. But for sure, they are not wandering around in this dimension that we are in. And anybody who claims to see a soul, claims to see a ghost, quote unquote, either this is imagination, or they are lying, and that is a logical possibility, or they have seen a jinn in the shape of a soul. It is not the actual soul of the person that is deceased. We do not see the soul of the deceased in a wakeful state. Whether we see them in a dream, we'll talk about next week inshallah. But we do not see the soul in the wakeful state. Why? Because the soul is no longer occupying this dunya. So when we are awake, there is no question, we have no contact with the soul directly. And anybody who claims otherwise, we say, now you have gone against the ijma' of the Muslim ummah. Now, where is the soul located? I'll mention some opinions and then I'll conclude and then move on to the next topic. I have 2 topics today, if we're able to finish them. The reason why there's a controversy where the soul is located is that there appears to be a number of reports that seem to have different categories for different souls. So for example, let's begin. Our Prophet ﷺ, when he's passing away, Aisha radiallahu anha is holding him and his head is on her chest and he's breathing his last. Who can tell me, oh students of the seerah, what was the last words that he uttered in this life? فِي الرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى. Agreed everybody, right? What does that mean? What does Rafiq al-A'la mean? The highest companions. Who are they? Allah and the angels. فِي الرَّفِيقِ الْأَعْلَى. The highest angels. Rafiq is the contingent. Rafiq is a group. Al-A'la, the highest group. The Kiraman Katibin, Safrat al-Kiram al-Barara, the angels that are however you want to call it, the ones that are the highest level. They I want to be with. Which indicates, where is his ruh sallallahu alayhi wasallam? Up there. With Allah and with the Rafiq al-A'la, the holy angels. Okay. Now, the famous hadith that all of you know, Sahih Bukhari, Sahih Muslim, all of you know this, that the ruh of the shaheed is where? Inside the bodies of green birds, wandering around in Jannah, looking at Jannah, in one version eating of the hanging fruits of Jannah and perching on the chandeliers of Jannah, but they are not actually in Jannah as a body. They're in Jannah in ambience, wandering around up there. They're not living in Jannah, they're flying in Jannah. Difference between the two. Okay? They're flying means they enjoy the ambience of Jannah, but they're not in their palaces yet. They're not occupying their tents yet. They're not with their companions yet. They're not eating the food of the people of Jannah. In one version, they're eating of the grapes up there, but not the food that is going to be presented in the platters, as Allah says, عَلَى سُرُرٍ مُتَقَابِلِينَ. They're not there yet. So where is the soul of the shaheed? In the green birds, in the upper echelons of Jannah. Okay? Okay. Now, the fact that the shaheed's soul is in Jannah automatically implies that other than the shaheed is not going to be there. Because if they were there, then what is the purpose of the shaheed being told he will be in Jannah? So you find here the Prophet Rafiq al-A'la, the shaheed in Jannah. How about the rest of the believers? So here we get to, as we said, a number of controversies. The first opinion is that, and I'm just going to go over them quickly because in the end of the day, as I said, I don't find much significance in these different opinions. The first opinion, all of the souls of the believers, all of them are in Jannah. And the souls of the kafirs are in Jahannam. So they basically made qiyas upon the shaheed, and they said, if the shaheed has the green birds, maybe the other believers have something else. Okay, the fact that the shaheed has the highest level and flying around indicates, from this group of scholars, they said that maybe the other righteous believers are also in Jannah. And to prove this point, they also bring a hadith that is another version of this hadith of the shaheed. Because the hadith of the shaheed says that Ibn Mas'ud was asked, the famous Sahih Bukhari hadith, Ibn Mas'ud was asked, what is the meaning of the verse, do not consider those that have been killed in the way of Allah to be dead, rather they are alive with Allah, being sustained by Allah. Ibn Mas'ud said, we asked the Prophet about this, and he said, their ruh is in the bodies of green birds, and they have chandeliers that are coming down from the throne of Allah, and they fly around in Jannah wherever they go, and they then go and rest on those chandeliers. Now this version says the ruh of the shaheed, and is very explicit because the ayah begins وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Now other versions of this hadith reported and outside of the 6 books, of them is Ibn Hibban, they say the ruh of the mu'min. So does this mean that one of the narrators just made a mistake and reported by meaning, or that the Prophet said the ruh of the mu'min? Because if he said the ruh of the mu'min, maybe we can broaden the hadith. And Allah knows best, it appears to be that this is from one of the 2nd, 3rd generation narrators. Because the context of the hadith doesn't make sense, the ruh of the mu'min. The hadith begins, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. And even if the narrator says mu'min, the ayah indicates what is indicated by mu'min here is the highest level of mu'min, and that is the shaheed. Okay? So in reality, there is no, I would say, explicit evidence that indicates the believers' souls are in Jannah. You have these generic ones. Another group says that, well, if the Prophet is fil Rafiq al-A'la, surely those who loved him will be with him, because those that love him are with him. Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. And so, they said, the ruh of the believers is, forget Jannah, we'll get a free upgrade. They are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even higher, because the Prophet is there. So we should all get a free upgrade if we love him. MashaAllah, very generous, and we hope. But again, the third opinion is that the ruh of the believers are in the plains outside of the gates of Jannah. So they are close, they see the gates, and they are just waiting for the door to open to enter. And the kafir and munafiq, they are outside the plains of Jahannam. And again, there's no actual evidence, but it's just theories out there. The fourth opinion, I really like this one. They said that they are in fil mahd al-adam, the quintessential no location. They are in no location whatsoever, right? They are in no dimension, nothing. And that doesn't make any sense, because they're somewhere, even if it's alam al-barzakh, but they are somewhere. The fifth opinion, Imam Malik said, I have heard, balaghani, some of the tabi'un, Imam Malik is one generation between him and the Sahaba, right? Malik, Nafi' ibn Umar. His teacher is the student of the Sahaba. So Malik is one generation away. Between him and the Sahaba is one intermediate generation. So Balaghani, and this is famous for Imam Malik's book, there are many balaghat, Balaghani, I heard. And when Imam Malik said I heard, it's not a trivial I heard, because he's living in Medina and his teachers are the sons of the Sahaba. His teachers studied with the Sahaba. So Imam Malik's Balaghani occupy a status in the science of hadith. So he said, Balaghani, I have heard that the souls of the believers are free to roam wherever they want. So they're in no one location. They are free to go in the alam al-barzakh, wherever they want to go. They want to go up, they want to go down, they are free to go. What number are we on now? Sixth opinion is that Ibn Hazm said. Ibn Hazm wrote that the souls of the dead were where they were before they were born in this world. In other words, from the time Allah created the soul, remember we talked about this, up until their birth, they were in some location. Where they were, we have no idea. Then Ibn Hazm says, when we die, we will return to where we were. كَمَا بَدَأْنَا أَوَّلَ خَلْقٍ نُعِيدُ. Right? So Ibn Hazm argues they're going to go back to where they originally were. However, firstly, there's no evidence for this. And secondly, the cumulative experience of men is that there seems to be some occasional connection with the arwah of the dead, as we know, and we're going to talk about next week. Whereas there is no connection with the arwah of those that are not yet born. Right? So it does not seem to be a strong position that Ibn Hazm says, but nonetheless that is his position. Ibn Abd al-Barr, the famous Andalusian scholar, Ibn Abd al-Barr, he said, he looked at these evidences and he said, the soul of the shaheed is in Jannah, and the soul of the mu'min is surrounding his qabr. And this is, I would say, there is no one majority, but a majority position. A lot of ulama held this one, right? Because that's maybe what it seems like. Because the hadith of Bara ibn Azib, which we did multiple times, always, brothers and sisters, remember the hadith of Bara, we said it is the fundamental hadith of this whole science, right? The Prophet ﷺ said, when the soul comes back down, it goes to its jasad, it goes back to its body. So Ibn Abdul Barr said, the shaheed soul doesn't go back down, it stays up there in the green birds. And the bodies of the other believers, their soul comes and is in that vicinity. From our relative perspective, they're in that vicinity. So this is Ibn Abdul Barr, and I would say it is a majority position. One can construct another position under this. The souls of the prophets are higher than Jannah, because Rafiq al-A'la. The souls of the shuhada are in Jannah, and the souls of the righteous are where their bodies are. This is, I think, Allah knows best. It seems to be a reasonable position. There are other opinions as well. Ka'b al-Ahbar, he was the son of a rabbi, and Ka'b al-Ahbar, if you know who he is, a very interesting character of early Islam, and he brings a lot of narrations from the Judeo-Christian sources, because he was a scholar who was schooled in the other traditions when he converted to Islam and he began becoming a scholar. So he has a lot knowledge of the other scriptures as well, and folklore from his religion, and he would narrate a lot of things from there. And because he was so early, he was contemporaneous to Ibn Abbas. Ibn Abbas and him were a similar age. So he is of that generation, but he's not a Sahabi. So because of that, a lot of his narrations made their way into our tafsir literature. So Ka'b al-Ahbar said, the souls of the believers are in Illiyin, and the souls of the kuffar are in Sijjin. But Allah knows best. The verse in the Quran mentions that the abrar, the righteous, are up there and the evil are down there. And that's after Qiyamah, not before Qiyamah. Again, this is an opinion. And then there are many folklore, bizarre opinions that are found in some of the books. These are fairy tales. These are myths. For example, the souls of the believers are in the well of Zamzam. This is something mentioned in our classical books, right? Which is actually a bit freaky when you drink Zamzam. You don't want all the souls over there, right? But this is just kalam, just there. Or the souls of the believers are a particular well in Damascus, and the souls of the kuffar are a particular well in Hadramaut. I mean, this is just empty kalam. Ibn Taymiyyah, he tries to reconcile all of these things, and Ibn Taymiyyah has a position as well. And in his Majmu' Fatawa, Ibn Taymiyyah, volume 5, page 144, he says, وَأَرْوَاحُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ فِي الْجَنَّةِ. So he follows the position, the righteous believers, they are all in Jannah, in the Barzakh, before Qiyamah. The arwah of the believers are in Jannah, even though some amongst them are allowed to come back to this world and their body here. And they can go up and down as they please, like when they were awake and they go to sleep, their soul goes out and it comes back down. So too in the Barzakh, they have that option as well. And this he said is the position of Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and many ulama, and they have evidences for this, end quote. So Ibn Taymiyyah's position is interesting and I'm sympathetic to it. Between Ibn Abdul Bar, Ibn Taymiyyah, this is my position and Allah knows best, and they're both similar except that Ibn Abdul Bar says each category will always be there, and Ibn Taymiyyah says it is possible for the soul to go in and out and move around, which is similar to Imam Malik as well, that the soul can go wherever it wants to go. In the end of the day, Allah knows best. This is not something that we can categorically state anyway, and there's no benefit for us to know. This is just a hypothetical issue. And at the same time, and we'll talk about this next week inshallah, so all questions pertaining to communication and whatnot, this is going to be next week inshallah. There does seem to be evidence and human experience that the grave, the sight of the grave, has something to do with the soul. Okay, so the cumulative experience of mankind, of visiting the site of the grave and the soul being aware that the person has been visited or the body has been visited. So Allah knows best. Does this mean that the soul is maybe up there but it has some connection with the location of its body? In the end of the day, it is alamul barzakh, as I said in the beginning. So the whole notion that we can pinpoint, we can demarcate on a 3D chart, right? As if there was a radar scanner and we can follow the soul. No, the soul cannot and does not have a location like our bodies do. So maybe the soul can be in different places at the same time. Einsteinian physics, if you understand what I'm talking about. It's not something that is impossible, even from our minds to understand. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. So that is the first topic for today. And this topic we conclude, as I said, I'm sympathetic to both Ibn Abdul Bar and Ibn Taymiyyah's position between these two. And these are the majority. So these two are the dominant positions of where the soul is. Jayyid.